Seven o'clock. I'm going to call the first meeting of 2023 committee meeting. Committee of the Hole's first. So the first thing tonight is Office 365 migration. Nick?
Yep, I can see he's busy back there talking to Melanie, but...
You're going to tell us how to get that new email address.
Yeah, so...
Rodney keeps banging my computer. I don't use it. I don't have it yet.
So just by way of, I think you all know Nick. Nick Cecil is our IT director, and he's... How long have you been with us now, Nick?
As an employee or in general?
Well, that's true, both. You can split it. You worked with Quality IP on our accounts for how long?
2017.
2017, and then we stole him away, and he's been with us... February will be a year. So, and I know, I think I've said some nice things about him, even in his absence, as has other department heads. We're all really excited. One of the things he is doing, for a lot of reasons, which he could get into, but I think some of it's more technical than it's worth, is migrating the city off the Google platform to the Microsoft 365 platform. It offers a lot of things, not the least of which is better security that Nick feels is super important, which we all feel super important, right? Not a week goes by where you don't read about some city that got hacked and something bad happened. And speaking of hacking, not that you would get hacked, but part of we're now to you guys with your email addresses, your city email addresses. And what he's here to, he'll give you a little brief explanation. He also mentioned to me there is a tutorial that's, I think, meant to be simple.
Yeah.
So that may be something he'll point you to, because he'll finish migrating the police, and that will be the last department. I'm on it, everybody's on it now. And once you do get used to it, it's fine. But it is a different, where do you scroll down? And it's just those simple logistic things that you got used to in Google. Now you got to switch over to Microsoft. He has, part of what he's here for, one is to put it on your radar screen, but also to say, if once you kind of get migrated, and we'll keep you informed as we get closer to that, he can do some training beyond the tutorial if it helps. He can do it by phone, he can do it in person, he can do it as a group, he can do it as individually. We just kind of wanted to let you know that we're not going to, for those of you that do use your emails, we don't want you to feel like you're locked out now and you can't, and you're frustrated and you can't get in. And I think you'll eventually figure it out. Patty and I definitely had some moments where we were like, throwing the mouse across the room, and then Nick would walk in and say, no, it's right here. You just didn't see it, So.
Well, and points to you, for both of you, for agreeing to be my test subject. So.
That's right.
So the first two, other than myself, to move. So very well.
So there's no decision to be made tonight. It's just an information item, and let Nick kind of explain a little more detail, maybe really as much detail as you want. I see John's already got a question.
Will all that information that I've been storing for the last 10 years on Google disappear?
It depends. The short answer is no. You will not lose anything. The longer answer is during the migration, the system will automatically move for you your emails, any folder structures you have made in your emails, and your calendar. Anything you're storing in the Google Drive, you will need to manually move from Google Drive to Microsoft's version OneDrive. And that's the part that we would assist you with. We as IT, if you needed any help, we would assist you with that. And we'll help get you into the new system. But no, the system automatically, as part of the migration, moves your emails, your folder structure, and your calendar items for you.
What's a Google Drive?
So you don't even need to worry about it, John.
Never mind that. So, cloud storage. So the short of it is, we are moving to Microsoft. It's come to be your guys' turn. So not to put too much of a deadline on it, but the Google licensing does expire March 1st. That is you must find me before then, please. And again, the option is we can either do it somewhat in a format like this. You guys can come in, bring in phones, computers, tablets, iPads, whatever you may use, and we can do it collectively. Or you can schedule time with me individually, and we can move you one at a time, or smaller groups at a time, whatever works best for you guys. We want to make sure that it's smooth transition, that we're here to facilitate it for you.
It will have a different extension on the email, right? You'll go to the more traditional, more current conventional format.
So, before you get worried about that, you will still always and forever receive emails on your current email address. They won't go into Google anymore. They'll come into the new one, but you won't stop getting, you won't have to immediately go, oh no, everyone needs my new email address. That's not a concern. They will always also come to the new system. But the new actual email addresses are a first name dot last name at kentohio.gov. We got rid of the dash and added the .gov. We did it, yes.
Yes, it's about time.
So yes, we got that all taken care. So yes, we are. That was part of that was also part of the initiative, was to move to the .gov domain name. So
Okay, Jack, do you have a question? Does somebody,
I do.
Amy,
yeah,
Yeah,
or Heidi, I mean.
I'm just wondering maybe if Amy could schedule some sign-ups or something like that, might be pretty easy for us
I
to.
think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, absolutely, whatever works best.
Yeah, I mean, maybe let Amy know, and she can coordinate with Nick, and I think the first is to see it yourself first. And so you won't even know what to ask until you see it, right? Because you'll be
Until
like,
you're in it, yeah. So the other biggest change to make you guys aware of is that now part of our cybersecurity insurance that I have partnered with Rhonda on getting better premiums for required us to use what's called multi-factor authentication. It's a long way of saying, I don't know if any of you use that for banking. It's when you go to log into your bank and then it has to send you a text and you have to, so I don't know if any of you have done that before or for other reasons, but the new email system will also require that to get in. So it's an extra step, but it does help us improve security and it does help us get better premiums with cyber insurance. So
Yeah, so this is kind of what
Tracy.
Heidi was asking. Will you stay after council so we can set up stuff with you today?
if you would like to.
Yeah.
No, actually I forgot. No, in order for it to do the automatic migration, it needs at least 24 hours to do the migrating process. So I can start it tonight, but unfortunately, no, I was not prepared in such a way for someone to say, let's do it right now. I apologize. No, it does take some time to actually move everything over.
January 18th at the next council meeting, maybe?
Oh, yeah, we could absolutely do that.
What's this?
Absolutely.
What'd you say, Amy?
Mine's kind of complicated. I have my email gets forwarded to another.
That will also no longer be possible.
Oh,
Forwarding emails outside of the city's systems to a private address for reasons of security and public record is no longer allowed per our security design.
huh. So
So.
that's kind of complicated for me then, because I don't know how to get onto the.
And we'll get you into it. That's part of that, what we will do with the migration and the training, is we will help you get into it.
Okay, but you need 24 hours in advance before I can come in to work with you.
Yes, because once I complete the migration batch, you can no longer use the Google side.
Which I don't use anyway.
You do.
So I could, after council tonight, I could set up a thing for the future so that we can get together.
Yes, yes, please. But yeah, no, just because you don't access it, I should clarify, Google can no longer function at all for you once I've completed the migration batch. So even though you don't log into it, that forwarding function would also shut down. So you don't want to lose that until it's time to actually be in the new one.
Roger.
Yeah, so Nick, if I lost my mind, if I said to you, go ahead and just migrate me now, all right, then I can stumble around like a blind man and...
You would still need our input. So the multi-factor part needs us to do it. And again, I couldn't just migrate you this moment. It does, like I said, it does take time to actually perform the data.
Well, I guess what I'm really asking is that would you prefer to migrate us, have us stumble around blindly, and then come prepared with questions if we do get stuck?
I'm
or-
typically more of a,
And I've been trying to
I'd
get rid
like to help if that's if you feel more comfortable doing it on your own, but typically my style is
Yeah.
more of a guided approach.
Okay.
I'll say we don't go, the training doesn't go very in-depth. It's not a hours-long process. It's usually about 10 minutes per person of just a basic overview of here's the system, here's how it works, here's how to get a feeling for Microsoft, and then turn it over to you and then say, call me, you know, with bigger questions.
So OneDrive is what
Yeah.
it's called, right?
OneDrive is the storage piece.
Yeah.
Office 365 is
Yeah.
the over-encompassing name of it.
Okay.
And I sort of mentioned it, and Nick mentioned it, but I just want to reiterate, some of this is driven by the fact that in our audits, our financial audits of the last 5 years at least, they have flagged this as being a weak spot, that we have not, that our use of Google is not satisfying sort of the conventional standards for cybersecurity, whereas Microsoft will. And that's why he said Rhonda and he talked about it. And so it is more than just Nick's being cautious. It's actually a recommendation of our auditors that it's time for us to do that.
And not just budget and finances audit, several other audits as they apply to different departments also dinged us on that. So it wasn't just budget and finance alone, it was a few other entities as well that have their own auditing bodies.
Michael?
I have over 25,000 emails on there
Mhm.
from the city on my phone.
Okay.
How hard's that going to be to just, and it's not in any folders, it's just,
And then it
All
will,
mail.
then you will have 25,000 emails in the news system in no folders.
it'll just be do all and just transfer it over?
I don't do anything, it's all automatic. I just
all
say,
automatic?
this is the new inbox, this is the Google inbox, bring it as it is.
Okay.
So it's not like I even manually click and do it for you.
Yeah.
No, it's an entire background process that just happens.
Okay.
Although it does take time, because I know he would tell me, well, I can tell you which department had saved their every email they've ever owned, because it's taken them like a day for that migration to. Hey, I've been here 17 years, so give me a break.
The largest inbox in the city, right? The winner of the...
Well, I said,
I
one of the things I've done is every time I've got something from the city that I would think would be under public records, I would not delete it. And it just, my things, and my phone's getting old and it's slowing down, and that's probably why it's got all those emails and.
Well, I don't know that, I mean, it may or may not hold them locally, but yes, they will all come over. The other thing is, part of what Google did not do that I can now do for you is I can alleviate some of that concern with public record. Just because you've deleted it doesn't mean it's gone. So,
already known that, yeah.
Google did not think quite that way with the way that it was set up. Microsoft, however, has the retentions and compliance systems turned on. So even if you delete it, I can still get it forever. So
Okay.
it is,
That's
I can
the question.
alleviate some of that concern.
That was my next question, actually, so.
John?
Yeah, I think if I understood this right, you said you can't forward information and
Correct.
stuff like that. Now, here's what happens to me a lot. Suppose I have a contact somewhere in the city, one of the departments,
Mhm.
and I have a personal question for them, and I'll ask them on my personal email that's not the city's email. For some reason, they answer me in the city email. And so what I usually do with that, if it's not city business, I forward it back to my personal email where it's supposed to belong. So that won't happen, right?
Well, you're welcome to forward whatever emails to yourself that you'd like. The system cannot be programmed to automatically forward every email you receive.
Oh, I thought you said you couldn't forward any of the city stuff.
So it's a different convention from what Tracy was specifically asking. Her question was related to a larger forwarding setting, not the forwarding of individual emails.
Yeah, 'cause for
Hers
a
is a
while
little bit,
there, I was
hers is a
getting-
little bit different of a
For a
of
while there, I was
nature.
getting the city emails on my personal.
Well, no, if you couldn't forward anything, the system would be relatively useless. So no, it's not that you can't forward. You cannot turn, it's called automatic forwarding. You cannot turn on automatic forwarding where it automatically will send everything through.
Well, that's too complicated for me to do anyhow.
But yes, so don't worry, you won't lose the ability to do exactly what you're doing now. No big,
Okay,
no
are
issue.
there other questions?
Can I just mention, you will, for those, as Mike mentioned, uses his phone, he'll need to download that app, correct?
Yeah.
So for those of you that do it off your phone, you'll need the Microsoft, well, which, is it just called Microsoft Outlook?
What if we already have that?
Or if you already have
So.
it. Yeah, there is a tricky, he did warn
So,
me.
That's a fun one, and I do pre-apologize for it. We are in the government version of the Microsoft product. That product is not compatible to be used with other Microsoft products. So if you already have Outlook, you have to choose. Do you want the city's email account on your app, or do you want the other one? You cannot combine the two, and that's not up to me. That is how Microsoft has designed that system.
That's
I
a
have an
problem for me.
iPhone, and I've still got my Hotmail account and the city.
Hotmail is different. You don't have...
I've got
Like-
Outlook.com too.
Which is not,
Okay.
no. Like, I believe Kent is on,
Kent
State is on Google, or is on Microsoft, I believe. You couldn't have both a Kent.edu and the City of Kent one on there. Outlook doesn't count. Outlook is like the personal version. You can't have other business
see.
Google
I see.
accounts. Sorry, other business accounts cannot be attached.
I know, and that's where it gets complicated. We don't want to over-confuse you. We'll handle
Yes.
that individually if some of you
But
are
to
using
answer
it.
your question, you will have to, one or the other, unfortunately.
They're both work-related, and they're both very important to me.
I cannot rewrite, unfortunately, I cannot rewrite Microsoft's program.
But she could have, what it means is she may have to put one on her phone and one on her
Yes.
computer.
You can use,
I know. That's-
Well, no, you can also use the built-in mail app. If you have an iPhone, you can use the built-in mail app for your other one.
Oh.
The government one requires the Outlook app, but the other non-gov accounts can be used in the built-in mail app. So that's how a lot of people within the city have overcome that.
Amy, study up on this, will you?
Okay. We'll get it all figured
I
out.
believe Amy was the third person, so she's got plenty of experience.
Yep.
Right, Amy?
That's right.
And Nick did want to mention, before we left this topic, that, you know, he would like to see us follow some of the other cities, including, I just found out, Ravenna, where the city provides you either a laptop or an iPad or something like that, that you would use as your council workstation, so to speak. And you know, he's actually got money budgeted for that, but he didn't want to, he's taking it one step at a time. I know historically we've sort of mentioned it, and there's not been a great deal of excitement for the idea, but we're mentioning it again. I think there does have merit to look at something like that for you as a council member. Now, for those that eventually retire, you have to turn it back in. I mean, it's not yours forever. It's just, notice Nick kept saying, I don't want to say, if one of you don't get reelected, I said, no, I'll just retire. If you retire, anyways.
Roger.
Yeah, Dave, didn't we have that conversation and said we were going to delay that conversation?
To the
until
new City Hall.
was built, so-
Yeah, we
Yes, that
did
was
once.
part of it.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
timing is perfect, I think.
Exactly.
I don't know, would there be duplication if we did it now till 24?
I think it might be, the transition might be slightly easier. It wouldn't duplicate any work if we didn't do it or we did. It wouldn't create any more work for us than for either you or IT, but I think it might make it easier for you guys if you had a device dedicated for this new email system. It might make it a more seamless transition, but I want to do whatever is most convenient for you guys.
Oh, so
Yeah, that makes sense.
so then I can't
Tracy?
use my computer that has the Microsoft from Kent.edu then anymore?
That you can do.
Oh, I can't.
I know, sorry.
Sounds like a learning experience. Gwen?
Specific
It's
to
not
the
the
app,
phone.
but you can use the webmail, the web-based email part. It doesn't link in any way, so you can use webmail from really any device without worry of conflict.
Gwen?
I just was going to comment that I like the idea of the iPad. If it makes it easier for transition, I am perfectly comfortable making a motion if that's what we need for it, or putting it on the
So,
agenda, or
I
whatever
will
needs
say
to happen.
I would prefer not an iPad. I would prefer a full
Well,
computer.
what-
But
Catholic, whatever you want.
to clarify that, I would prefer a full. For other reasons, I would prefer a full computer. But we can get into those, the password change reason. But yeah.
Yeah. However the discussion goes.
But
I
yes,
think that's-
so I don't know if you guys like Surfaces. They're essentially Microsoft's version of that. So.
It sounds like it's going to be a learning experience for all of us.
But like I said, not to rush that into place. If you know, if we wanted to pilot it with one or two people first to try it, or if you wanted to wait until the city hall is truly finished, I don't want to force anything.
I think I should run it now.
There further questions? All right, I think we're going to look for the next step.
Thank you, guys.
No, thank you, Nick.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Nick.
Still trying to figure out how to get into my PayPal account.
All right, next on the agenda is a pending list, and we aren't appointing chairmans tonight, people. It's a two-year process, so that's not part of the deal. So, Dave?
Sure, thank you. It's on the yellow pages of the sheets, and there's actually not a bunch of new stuff. Remember, a lot of these, in previous years, you've said, well, you've completed the task, but let's keep it on the list. There's a fair number of those, so we'll go through. Number one was one of those. That's been on, and essentially, the last year's recommendation and the year before that was keep it on the list until the Climate Action Plan is done. And you've had updates in the Climate Action Plan. Bridget's got Karamita working on that. It's in the public process now, so our recommendation is to keep number one on the list. I forget, do you like to go through all these first, or?
No, we'll just state we're going to keep that one on the list. Go to two.
You're okay with that? Okay. The senior center, so this one came up in a couple different iterations in the past, all the way back to when Melissa Long was on council, so it's been a couple of years. It was very much tied to the Parks Department master plan, and since the Parks Department is currently updating their master plan and in the process of that master plan, my recommendation is to see how that plays out in there. See, maybe it'll have a recommendation in for a senior facility or senior committee. I don't know yet. So I'm just suggesting let's just keep it on the list pending the Parks Master Plan update.
Okay, I'll move to 3.
This was a conflict of interest. This was, Mr. Pano had concerns because he was denied the ability to speak on a project, right? It's been a while.
Yeah.
In front of council because he both sits on the planning commission, or he did sit on the planning commission, and he was the architect of record, and it was, the way it was written is that's a conflict of interest, and he wanted clarification of that. You did refer it in a committee at his request. As Hope says, she hasn't done anything with that really of any consequence yet. It's also, not to make excuses, but it was just Mr. Pano that had this one issue, and so, yeah, I'm not ignoring it, don't get me wrong, but she's like, in the grand scheme of things, but it's not risen to the level of priority of some of the other things, so that's why it's still on there.
Heidi?
I was going to make a motion, move to remove.
I'd second that.
Second by Gwen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay, thank you for
Number
that.
4.
The idling, this was one that there was a report back, and I know this is near and dear to Tracy's heart, so she asked to keep it on the list and keep. I'm suggesting keeping it on it. That's fine with us too, because I think some of this may play out in the climate action plan as well.
Okay, we're going to keep number 4. Further?
Design guidelines updates. You've had a few meetings with Bridget here talking about the design guideline updates. You know we're still, well, I'd say we're shoulder deep. We're not knee deep. We're nearing the end, actually, right? Final, I think Bridget's saying if everything keeps on schedule, should be able to have a final report from the consultants in the spring of 2023. So let's keep it on the list until you get that report.
All right, number 6. Oh, I'm sorry,
That's
Roger.
okay. Dave, just for a clarification on that, so is the final form just going to be brought to council and we're up or down, or are we going to have multiple, because the reason I ask this is that we actually, as a council of the whole, committee of the whole, we're the ones who kind of initiated all
Right.
this. Will we have the opportunity to have multiple committee of the whole meetings to talk
Sure.
about sections of it, to understand it, open it to the public a little bit? I think that's critical. I think because we're the ones who initiated this whole process, and I'd like to make sure that everyone sees that it isn't just they've done something and we just rubber stamp it and we move on.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And
And
because you guys have been working real hard, but we really haven't.
well, I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to be dismissive of. There's been public meetings in here with
Right,
you,
right.
with some early steps, but I think it's completely fair to say they'll come back with a final recommendation report.
Yeah.
But then you can deliberate as long as you want on that. And if you want subsequent meetings and more public comment, there's nothing stopping you from that. And that's fine too. So that's kind of your call. Once
Okay.
the process will wrap up and then it's presented to you, and then you can choose to chew on it. You could push it back, whatever you want to do at that point. Bridget's not here. I'm sure she could give us a.
Well, I don't want to add to her.
No, it's fine.
But the point is I think that we
Mhm.
we took a pretty strong stance on things, and I think it's appropriate for us to
Yes.
put it right out there, what we're thinking about the various parts of it, and have everyone on council be able to, we gave it a due diligence, I guess that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
That make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Any more comments? We're going to keep that on the pending list.
Yep.
Retain it. Number 6.
Number 6, this was the infamous guitar case. The neighbor didn't like the other neighbor's guitar tuning. And you referred it over to staff, and Hope worked on that. Hope did bring back some minor changes. There wasn't a lot that we could necessarily change, but she did make suggestions. You adopted them. She also talked those through with the resident that brought the complaint, and I think at this point, everything's about as satisfied as they're going to get. So I think we can remove that from the list.
Any discussion about that? Motion to remove it?
Move to remove.
John?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Number 7.
Right, so number 7 had to do with sidewalk shoveling in the Franklin Township. Now, we have not, to my knowledge, had a direct conversation on this topic, but I viewed it as it's sort of being part of the larger discussion, which we have been very busy on, and Jim was busy on, working with PARTA, the township, and the city on the project to improve pedestrian safety and mobility in that stretch between, the city of Kent and Franklin Township, all the way to 261, basically, from Horning Road. So I would contend that as that project moves forward, it's a study project, that's a topic that could certainly be raised in that context, and it may happen on its own, or we'll at least make sure it's thrown into the mix as, consideration for the township and the city if it's a partnership, something like that. Jim, is that fair to, yeah? And that's ongoing now, that study work, so keep it on the list, I would say.
Heidi?
That would be more like sidewalk plowing.
I think that's what sidewalk shoveling, it says on the, right?
Plowing.
Different?
Not like forcing individuals to shovel their sidewalks, but
Okay.
more like talking about the city or Franklin Township to engage in plowing continuing to plow the sidewalks
Okay.
beyond the city limits. Is that what kind
Okay,
of
that's fine.
was in mind?
Either or is fine
Either
with
or.
me. I mean,
Okay.
that's fine, so sure. Jim, you got that noted in your head for the next meeting or whatever?
Okay.
It's up to you.
Oh.
Yeah,
Jim's going to say something?
he's good.
All right. It seems like the consensus is to leave that on the pending list,
Yeah.
number 7. That concludes the administration. Moving into council, health and public safety.
Yeah, this first one, this was the low-frequency noise concern. I think it was in Tracy's ward.
Yeah.
And there was some work done on it. I know the mayor had gone out to the site. I don't think there's anything for us to be able to do at this point. That's why I was suggesting removing it.
Yeah, a citizen was actually going to come in and speak today about this, but they couldn't make it because they were having problems with a neighbor's hot tub motor that was putting out low frequency also. And I just heard a program on the radio that was saying any noise, continuous noise between 25 and 55 hertz is detrimental to people if it's sustained. So I think that we should be proactive about that and just keep it on the list as it right now. And because we're so often so reactive to problems. And this is a problem we can be proactive to get ahead of it. And I don't think the problem has been solved yet with the Crawley tar. I think it's hard to find it because usually they have it at night, like between 10 o'clock at night and midnight, not during the day. So, I mean, if you want, I can go out there and call you when it's running. It's really, really awful. And it's just like, the cars going by with their boom boxes. Just imagine that for half an hour. That's what these residents are
I didn't go out at night. I went in the afternoon and morning and never.
yeah.
So, John?
Just as a point of possible interest, I don't know if I approve of all the devices or not, but if you look what's happening in the economy, a lot of things are changing the way we do things, Now you used to have them big noisy blowers and weed eaters. Now they're all turned to battery operated, and the noise from this new equipment is a lot less than the gas powered equipment. So some of these problems are solving themselves.
Listen,
If
Robin?
that's
That's
point of
different
interest.
though.
Robin?
Yeah, I was wondering, Tracy, I guess it's kind of an issue that is ongoing in other areas. How ultimately are we defining that? Have we gotten to the point, I think maybe with John, that we're able to define violations? Is that something that we have codified?
No.
That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
codified.
I can do some research on this, but I am, because it's such a new issue, I'm wondering if it's something that we should take up with the state. Because, and I truly do understand the issues, but I think we need to be very, very careful as a city to start legislating every sound that someone is offended by, because we'll start losing our industry. People won't want to live here because they can't have a swimming pool or a hot tub or things like that. So I think that this is truly, even though it's an issue of importance, I think it's an issue that we need to be very careful because it could become a slippery slope. But I'll be happy to do some research.
Further, Robin?
No, I'm good.
John?
You know, this might be something to look into, Hope, because I'm pretty sure, but not positive, that the federal government regulates and rates every piece of equipment that's made. And they have requirements for noise as well as everything else. And there are things that they're not allowed to put out so many
Decibels.
That's
decibels.
different. Decibels are different.
So if something is functioning properly, that's fine, but if it's not functioning properly, then it violates the federal law.
I'll take a look at it.
Tracy, do you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say, decibels and hertz are different. Hertz are talking about the vibrational level, and decibels are talking about the loudness. So those are two different areas. But I would just like to make a motion to keep it on the pending list.
Second?
Second by Heidi. Any other discussion?
Yeah. I wanted to say that, this isn't just this one complaint. We've had other issues in the city. I know that Mr. Myers, Chris Myers, has been very upset about, like, the vibrations coming from I guess it's somebody who has a mega speaker attached to their vehicle riding through our neighborhood, because you can't hear it, you feel it. Our windows start vibrating, and it's just like, you feel like, oh, something really freaky is happening. And it's like, oh, yeah, that car. And it happens every time. So I guess my thought is just, let's keep it on our radar screen as for possible policy development. Look and see what's out there.
Any more?
Yeah, and I wanted to
Tracy?
say that with the low frequency noises, your walls on your house won't stop them. They go through the walls, and the house actually magnifies the frequencies. So there's only certain ways you can do it with, you can put like guards up somehow around fences and deadening things like they use for speaker equipment and things like that. But you can't just close the door or shut the window. It doesn't work.
Any more discussion on the motion? Gwen?
It's been my understanding that our code enforcement officer has gone to a house regarding hot tub noise before. So I know that our code enforcement officer does go for noise complaints.
But there's nothing he could have done about it.
I guess on this particular, to have it on council's pending, I'm just a little concerned that it's kind of too vague and too specific both at the same time. It's about a specific business and what sounds like a neighbor complaint, but then we don't have any quantifiable way to address it yet. Is there some way that this can be removed from pending but then brought as discussion when we have something more specific down the road?
I think the motion to keep it on the pending list, it might be better, because overall it covers it, I think. But that's my personal, I don't vote here, so it's up to you people. Mr. Turner, you got something?
Yeah, this kind of actually is falling in line with something that's ongoing right now. And I think that having a general discussion about it is probably best. Keeping it on the pending list seems to be, would be advisable. So we can be able to discuss it in terms that make sense. If there are aspects that diminish the function of the cities and perhaps create issues for businesses and the like, that we're able to have that discussion in general and able to educate ourselves regarding exactly what is the most appropriate way to codify it as a city. So I would be supportive of.
I'm going to call for the vote. I think we had enough discussion. All in favor of leaving it on the pending list?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Okay.
It remains.
Thank you. The next was proactively dealing with racism, hatred, and diversity in Kent, and we had a bunch of things that came out of all those discussions, not the least of which was creation of a new diversity, community engagement manager or something like that, coordinator, whatever. I got to look it up, what we ended up with. The language we finalized. I think this is one of those topics, I know it's a top concern for people, so I would say we've kind of checked the box as the initial motion was made, but if this is something you want to keep on the list, because it is such an important issue in general, I'm fine with either way. That's why I wrote retain or remove. It's kind of up to you. You can always add something in. I mean, just because it's not on the list doesn't stop us from looking at it if another issue pops up. I mean, it's totally up to you. However you want to handle it, it's fine.
Anybody have a preference? Tracy?
Yeah, I'd like to retain it, just to keep it in front of our faces, that's all.
Is there a second to Tracy's motion? Second. Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Well, the next one, you had a interesting discussion with the volunteers of the Flag Committee. And they've clearly put some hard work into it, and there's still work to be done, and they're in the process of sharing this, right, with the community next. And they'll summarize feedback and come back to you also. This, to me, seems very much like it's a process still underway, so I'd say keep it on the list.
Any preference? Keep it on the list? Okay, moving forward to health and public safety.
Yep, and this one was the animal control. I know John had referred it to committee, and Nick, I had lost sight of it, so I was like, oh, when I saw the pending list, I was like, Nick, why don't you call John? I think this is about the time John was having his surgery, so I don't think he actually connected. So I said, let's go ahead and just schedule it for discussion tonight. This is in regards to, John wanted to make sure our animal control officers had adequate equipment to do the job. So Nick's going to be speaking to that tonight in a couple moments. So you can either pull it now in anticipation, Nick, or wait. It's up to you.
Any preference?
If we're going to have the discussion, I think it makes sense to remove it now.
Well, we're still gonna have the discussion, yeah.
Okay.
Are you making a motion, Heidi?
Yes,
What's the motion?
I would move to remove it from
Is there a
the
second
pending
to that?
list,
Second.
Second by Gwen.
given we're going to talk about it.
Further discussion, Heidi?
Nope.
Gwen, further discussion? Anybody else have discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Changes in the fireworks law. We had our first test run of that back in July, right?
No, we had it the other night, too.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is we have a university that throws a bunch of parties with fireworks too, but that can be bad news at times too for noise and some of the other things, and not just the university, but certainly now the point of this law was more at the homeowner level. I'd say the university runs a pretty tight ship. It's now that it's been turned over to homeowners, there was some concern. I know some of you received complaints. We had the chief come in and he did a summary, kind of what the law offered, and in the end, after that, you decided not to opt out. I think that was the phrasing. You didn't have to keep the state law. You could opt out and go back to basically the way it was. You chose not to do that. So I'm taking that to mean you could remove it from the pending list unless you just wanted to keep it red flagged for future. I mean, it's up to you.
Is there a feeling, Heidi?
Well, my understanding was that we kind of had the idea of let's see how it goes. So retaining it would allow us to let's see how it goes. And then next time when we do this process, maybe we'll have more history under our belts on this issue.
Was that a motion or is it just a statement?
Motion to retain it
Yep,
then?
I make a motion to retain it.
Second.
Second by Tracy. Further discussion, Heidi?
Nope.
Tracy? John?
Yeah, I'll go either way with it, doesn't matter, but I think after our last discussion about this, we decided that all the complaints about the fireworks were in violation of the law that the state had anyhow. Part of it.
No. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, okay.
And then we had the yard waste site facilities. Garrett had made that motion to kind of look at whether we can make accommodations for landlords that have Kent properties, and Melanie came, she gave a presentation, and she has kind of put into place an opportunity for landlords to be able to have a certain number of deliveries, and there's a process they have to sort of show that it's from properties in Kent, and that they're not bringing it from outside the city, those kind of things. So we're still trying to protect the limitations of the site. Remember, we had the problem with, we were getting so much stuff, we couldn't even serve our own residents anymore, and enough of a portion of that was coming from outside the city that we had to kind of start checking IDs and that sort of thing. And that's when the landlords started to feel that, I guess. And the tenant can bring it in as much as they want, but again, Melanie's made accommodations, so I think we can remove this.
Preference from
I would move that we remove it.
Gwen made the motion. John, you second it? Gwen's discussion?
No, thank you.
John, discussion?
Yeah, I think the way it was, you'd bring them a water bill and prove that you were a city resident or something.
I thought that's the way it was.
But, like me, I have people that help me sometimes. So what do? Do I give my water bill to the person that helps me to bring for my property that are in Kent? So I haven't any problem with it, so.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Nice job, Mr. Roller.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, moving on. The new City Hall, Ms. Melanie.
So the building is continuing to move forward, and we're continuing to get more on that building. We were able to enclose it, as you've probably seen, and we are ready to start going up. I am so excited. So the steel will arrive the week of the 16th, and you all got in front of you a preliminary save the date. So we are going to have one of the mid-sized beams that's going to be on the front side facing the parking lot in a prominent spot. Actually, I got permission from the fire chief tonight that we'll bring that inside. And I'd like to have just a little ceremony with all of you guys here prior to the next meeting, because I think it's important for you guys to have that picture opportunity, but more importantly, to put that signature. This is a historic event for the city of Kent. So this is something that I want to be a part of, what's in that building and what we have for posterity to think about. So we'll be doing that, and then that first week of February, we should see it go up, and then we'll have some opportunities, maybe either February 1st or the second meeting in February, to go out and maybe get some photo ops with you guys down on the ground, but with that in the background. So I'm very excited that that's coming forward. It's been long in coming. Waiting for the steel was a little jittery there for a while, but it's being completely fabricated now, and so when it comes out to the site, they'll put it up there. I will forewarn, we may have to close a lane on South Water. We did get that approved as part of our maintenance of traffic prior to the start of the building. We don't think it's going to need to be both lanes, because we initially thought that, but we think that probably one lane there and maybe the lane on Haymaker. I told them the last thing I didn't want to see was to watch a crane go whoosh and watch that beam come back in. So I said we need to make sure that we're careful when we're doing this, and whatever we need to do. I did ask them, though, that if we could schedule that so that we missed kind of rush hour traffic and then get that back open prior to the evening traffic, and they seem to believe that they can work within that. We're continuing to work with the gas company. We were supposed to have our gas line installed. If you remember, we have to run a new main from DePeyster down to the new building to be able to furnish the gas for the building. It was supposed to be done the week before Christmas, but H.M. Miller got pulled off of that to do something else, so we're hoping mid to late December that'll be done. We're not in need of it right now. We don't have enough enclosed that we would use to heat it, but the nice thing about that is if we get this steel up and we can start enclosing it, we'll have the gas there that we can run to the building. So that's a pretty exciting thing as well. And finally, I met with the architect today on several things, but one of the things that's pretty exciting for me is they are forwarding to me the request for proposals, and we're going to start looking for our furniture provider. So we'll be putting that together, and I'm hoping by maybe mid to late February we'll have picked that company, and I will be back with the administrative staff and coming to meet with you guys to look at office furnitures and those kinds of things.
Which provider was that?
We have not picked one. We're getting ready. We have to do a request for proposals.
For which provider?
I'm sorry, for furniture.
Furniture.
For furniture, yes. And then the last thing, because you guys brought it up tonight, I would highly recommend getting your Surfaces, laptops, whatever Nick wants to give you that opportunity, because if you remember and you recall correctly, Mr. Sidoti, Everything in the new building will be wireless, so you guys should be ready to go the moment that you enter for that very first meeting. So everything would be wireless. Amy will be able to control some of those things, so a lot of the paper that might be in front of you will now be on a screen. And then you'll have access to the new large screens and TVs that will be up in council chambers. So it's a really exciting time, so get used to having one of those, because I think it's such a great transition for you guys. That'll be so exciting when we get to move in and be able to see all of those unique things as we work forward. So that's all that I have at this particular point. I will be sending an email with further information on the beam signing as far as time. If there's anybody specific that council would like to have there, or groups or people, please email me and let me know. I have no problem inviting them, and we can take that 25 minutes to make sure we get the signatures.
Melanie?
Dave?
No, John, do you want to go?
It don't matter.
Well, on that note, I just want to follow up. She had asked me, and I don't have a good answer. I mean, I would say I'm fine with it. She's like, do you want to have the chamber director there? Do you want Main Street there? Do you want any of your local businesses to be able to sign?
Let's work on it, Melanie.
So you guys decide, just let us know, or let the mayor know. He can coordinate. I see him pretty much daily now.
We can find somebody at the Canadian Club to come down.
Just so that you know, I mean, it could be just council that's on there as well. I would think staff should go on there. Those that will be inhabiting the building should probably do that. But you can make it as large as you want. If you want businesses that are here, or university, or high school, you know, maybe the high school principal or the superintendent or somebody of that nature. I mean, I've seen them be completely full, and I've seen it with just 7 names. So it's really kind of whatever you're expecting for that. So
I think Dave hit the chamber and the Main Street are 2 of the pluses.
Okay.
So, but not saying we can't go further. Let's work on it.
Okay. But feel free to send me whatever you think.
All right, John?
Yeah, Melanie, Low Tech John has a question.
Okay.
So you said the whole building is going to be wireless now.
Yep.
I just got a new wireless Xerox printer fax thing. It's terrified me. I plugged it in, it did everything by itself. My question is this: if everything in the building is wireless and the Wi-Fi goes down, does that mean nothing works?
Well, staff would like us to think that, and then it's a day to go home, right? No, Nick is really good. He jumps on those kinds of things. It's usually not down long if it is, but there's other things that we can do. Just because the wireless goes down doesn't mean that we don't have access to other things. So, yeah, no. We wouldn't be out of commission.
Any further questions? Gwen?
I don't have a question, it's just a comment if I could.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for the beam signing. I didn't even know that was a thing, so thank you for taking that moment and kind of providing the opportunity. It is historic, so thank you for the extra effort that goes into that. I appreciate it. And thank
You're
you
welcome.
for
You're
the
welcome.
fire department for
Letting us house it there for a few hours.
Yeah, babysit
the
the
guy
guy.
We can let the chief sign it then, since he's.
All right, yeah. Yeah.
I see how it works now.
Any other questions for Melanie? Seeing none?
All right, thank you.
No, thanks, Melanie.
Thanks, Melanie.
That's it for Committee of the Whole, Health and Public Safety. Mr. Amroy.
Yes, the first item on our agenda is Fire Department update. Chief Myers.
Yeah, so Chief's here. He's been talking for a while about giving a chance to maybe give you some updates on everything from paramedicine to some little fire they had that they dealt with, just some little thing.
Name and address, we'll give you 3 minutes.
The clock's ticking.
That's right. I feel as if you feel as if I'm long-winded or something.
Perish the thought.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Rowan. So basically, this past year, we ended up running 5,637 responses. Okay, and that's up probably about 500 from last year. So our responses continue to climb there, and again, the crews are working hard, and they're doing a great job. And the other thing is, I'll touch real quick on the fire there. There's the investigation is ongoing. We have had a cadaver dog out there, and we also had flammable liquid type of animal dog that went out there as well. And just to make sure we're just covering all our bases and so forth, just to let everybody know that we're doing a thorough investigation. That's through the State Fire Marshal's Office, ATF, as well as our own police department and our own fire investigators within the fire department. So we hope to conclude that soon, but there's a lot of things to look at. There's a lot of moving parts there. So as soon as I know and get everything prepared, then I'll certainly let everyone know. We had the opportunity to do an after-action review with our service department, and we just went over things. How can we improve? What can we do better working together and so forth? We also plan to do one tomorrow night with the police department. So those are things that we're constantly looking at ourselves, seeing how we can improve, what can we do better. The thing is that our service department did a great job with us and for us. So I'm just very proud that we have such great people that work there, that they were a tremendous resource for us when the fire was going on. So again, I certainly appreciate that support. And then, of course, the police department as well. And we're going to work together tomorrow on that after-action review. And again, we're going to take those things, compile them, and see where can we, what equipment and what areas that we can improve in. So we'll be moving that forward as well. So we measure our success by the way we touch the lives of people. This is what we do as the fire department with our rescue services and our emergency medical services. And now our paramedicine program. Again, I want to say thank you to Health Commissioner Joan Seidel. I always say this about the paramedicine program because really it wouldn't be here within our community without her and sharing that grant that she has. And so she has somebody 16 hours a week. Well, it's the same person. And then Sarah puts on a different hat and comes over with us and spends 16 hours doing the paramedicine program. So we're certainly grateful for that, and Mr. Ruller and his leadership on that as well. So certainly appreciate everything there. Our Fire Prevention Bureau has transitioned into what is a nationally recognized term as community risk reduction. And yes, we still do fire prevention and so forth, but we're also looking at ways of keeping the community safe and having our ambulances available and making sure that we're responding in the most appropriate fashion there. So with that, I would like to introduce Sarah Salina, and if I may have her come up, and she's going to just kind of go over a few things that paramedicine is doing within our community, and basically how that is interacting and how the good that it's doing for our community.
Hi. Plugged in. I passed out cards that have this information, but we're also going to put it on the big screen.
If you didn't already know, Sarah is not only a registered nurse, but she's a firefighter and a paramedic too. So we were very fortunate to find her, and that she is working with us and doing just a great job. So I'm going to keep quiet here and let her give her presentation. Yes, and I'll go ahead and turn the TVs on. And I know that we won't have this problem with the new City Hall, but you may have to stretch your necks there a little bit.
So I'm Sarah, and I do want to start off by thanking the city and Chief Myers and Joan Seidel for hiring me and giving me the opportunity to do this job. It is very rewarding. I have been here about 8 months, hired May 2nd, so we are still building, but we've had a lot of success. I handed out our cards.
Bill, I think you want to hit no on that.
Oh, there we go.
See where it says, oh, okay, it disappeared. Okay.
I'm not going to read this, you guys all have it, but basically our mission statement is to increase the quality of life for our residents and to reduce the strain on the EMS system and the emergency room in the hospitals. To date, I have made 78 home visits, and that is in my 16 hours a week that I share, so at the fire department. So that has been averaged out to about 2 visits a shift. Some things I have been able to accomplish in all this are setting up residents with new providers that don't have primary care doctors or specialists and getting them in to see them. I am working with their current providers in completing assessments, suggesting resources that they need, whether it be physical therapy or a specialist to be seen. And I also have provided with telehealth, with COVID. Telehealth has become a big thing, and so y'all probably know it's not the best assessment that they can do. So I'm working with them, and I go out and I'm able to do a nursing assessment, send them that information. So when they do the telehealth visit, they can more accurately provide medicines or whatever they need to do to help them have a better quality of life at home. So far, we have met with, and I communicate regularly with Unity and Access Point, and are working actively to get involved with more local doctors. I also, as part of my going in, I do medicine reconciliations, going over their whole list, looking and see if there's duplicates, things they don't need to be on, things that are can cause fall risk, or anything we can change just to keep them at home, out of the hospitals, and then safe and healthy. Every Thursday, I go to Kent Social Services and eat lunch, and I've been doing that since the summer. And they've come to trust me and know me. So I go in, I provide blood pressure checks, and I start doing blood sugar checks also before they eat. And they come to me with medical questions, medical problems, if they need services, housing, detox, doctors, the whole lot of things that I have been able to help with. I have, I think, 2 of our city residents I've gotten admitted into a detox program, and I have found housing for some of the homeless that come in. The biggest thing is just being able to advocate for them. This population doesn't have too many people to really speak up for them and know what they need. So using my networking and my resources, I can get in there and, I hate to say this, but they take it more seriously when they have someone else speaking.
Can I just ask that you put your microphone, the microphone by your mouth, or adjust it down? I noticed that the public's having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Another big part of our program is the fall risk assessment. In the population older than 65, falls is the #1 cause of death. Mm-hmm. So that's part of my assessment and going into the houses is looking. I've already removed rugs, removed obstacles. I'm going in next week. There's a lady that needs some grab bars installed, so we're going to go out and look and see where we can find those or install them in their house. There have been 6 events we've attended talking about the program, local PMHA events at Athena Drive, the pictures of Chief and I at Kent City Schools community resource event. Is it Walls Elementary, I think? Walls. Party in the Park community event, the Heritage Festival, Shaw Drive residents, that community invited me to come speak about the program, and then also Four Seasons. So the last thing I want to talk about is one of our residents, whoops. I feel he's one of my biggest success stories. My first visit with him, he had 20 911 calls in the previous 12 months. He has a chronic condition. I actually spoke with him yesterday. He knows I'm talking about him, said it was okay. So since I have been visiting him, he's had to call 911 5 times, which he still has a chronic condition, but we've been able to manage his chronic condition. And the biggest thing was me going in and I call it maintenance medicine, something he's supposed to be on to manage this condition and keep it under control. It was prescribed to him 4 months prior, And I saw it sitting there unopened in the box, and he didn't know how to use it. And he did not admit that. He didn't admit it to me. He never admitted it to the doctors. Everybody thought he was on it. And so once I showed him how to use it and educated, his health is greatly increased. He still needs a little bit of help. I have a company out of, covers this area, but they're in Akron, getting home care set up, helping with laundry, dishes, taking the trash out. So that's in the process. He doesn't drive, so we've worked on getting transportation to help him get back and forth to the hospital and just getting him more independent at home. We want to keep him at home. So that 15 calls and reduction a year is a huge deal.
And that's just one particular person that we have dealt with, and that's been a reduction of 15 calls for us. So again, I think there's so many more successes that we could talk about and review and go over. The thing is that again, this is touching people's lives, and this is making a difference, especially in our underserved communities that are really benefiting from her services. And so I really appreciate Sarah and all the hard work that she's putting into things. And you know what? When we look at the dollars and cents things, there's an aggregate about $15,000 when we look at calls and so forth. Just this one particular person. And I don't like to necessarily look at things like that when it comes to people. However, there is a budget that I'm responsible for as well. And that's why having the community risk reduction program and having Sarah involved in that is making a difference within our community. She's very limited, though. She has 16 hours a week. Again, she's doing a lot with her 16 hours. So I certainly appreciate her and all that she's doing for the community.
Questions? Gwen?
Just, I just wanted to point out, for if people are watching, one of the items that you didn't mention that was on your list here was initiated hospice services for 5 residents. Having had family members that were in hospice, it's truly deeply compassionate to have people at their very end of life receive special care. And so I think that's important to note. So I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned too, because as you said, these are really life-changing things. So I'm sorry, it's not a question, but I just wanted to say that out loud for people watching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike?
Is this just the city, or does it go to reach out to? I know you cover Sugar Bush, Knolls, and Franklin Township. Does she go there also? And because I know there's some problem areas out there.
Yes, we make ourselves available to our whole response district.
Okay, that was what I meant, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Further, John?
There's one for Sister and one for Chief. You brought up obstacles on the floors like rugs and that. And my daughter, who is RN, is on that same trail. And if we ever had anybody break in our house, they'd probably kill herself from one end to the other trying to get through it. And, with this knee replacement that I've had, the things that I used to tiptoe around now become obstacles. So that's a very important thing to try to drive home to people. And it's hard, we just...
It took one lady 2 visits, but she also had home nursing, she told me, had been on her. So finally she agreed to let me take it up, but it's hard to get people to change.
They must train all of you nurses to bring that out too, because I've never had one that doesn't. Chief, here's a question I had. Do you or have you thought of using adjuvants or water wetters when you have large structure fires?
May I have you repeat what you're talking about?
Water wetters are a agent or a chemical that you add to water that drives the...
Yes, we do have some, and we chose not to use that on the fire because we did not have very much of it. It is a rather expensive product,
right?
And therefore, it was something. Now with the new year, I'm able to purchase some more, but we do use it on occasion. Again. with those areas, or when we're most concerned about a rekindle or something like that, we're going to utilize that product. Or if there's other structures that may be close by to where we want to make sure that there's no spread of that fire.
I forget what the numbers are, but the reburns, it knocks them down like
It does, yes, sir.
quite a bit. I just wonder we were up on that. I'm not selling it anymore, so, you know.
Roger?
Yeah, Chief, the significance of this program, I mean, seems pretty self-evident that it's definitely contributing. So if in fact dollars were to become available somehow, either the state or the federal government, would we consider enhancing or increasing this program at any time in the future?
Absolutely. I would really like to see that happen. Again, I'm looking at this. The interaction with the paramedics, our emergency responders, and Sarah is daily. Whenever Sarah's in, I always see people coming up to her and saying, Mrs. So-and-so, I went on her, this is her circumstances. Here's the other unique thing. Sarah is the only RN that I know of that is in a paramedicine program in the state of Ohio. And I've talked to several other chiefs and so forth. We are really above and beyond what other departments are doing. A lot of them are using paramedics. A lot of them are staffing it as long as the engines are fully staffed.
Right.
So then there's no commitment to the program. However, with her limited amount of time, we are committed to this program, and we are providing follow-through. There's another aspect is Sarah is inputting the histories of these patients. Okay, UH Portage, who we do our basically our telehealth. Am I saying that right? Not the telehealth, but the our recording system for when we do a report and so forth. She's entering in information that UH system has saying that they've never seen that before. Now we have these complete records. So now when the guys are on the scene, they're looking up their previous records to see what's going on to help get a better idea of what's going on with the patient. And so again, Sarah has taken this program above and beyond. And we're very proud of our program. Even though we're just part-time with it, we're still doing things in the state here that nobody else is doing.
Roger?
Well, I guess that was my next question. Are there other departments that have a, what are we calling this, paramedicine?
Yes.
Are they doing paramedicine also?
Yes. There's Greene, Akron. There is...
Streetsboro has limited.
Streetsboro.
And then Lakewood is starting. Sorry, I'm not loud, I know. Lakewood's starting a program, Middleburg Heights, and there are more. UH is actually trying to build a protocol and a program to roll out so more departments can use it. They've come down and followed us to see how we're doing things.
Well,
so.
I would just say that I think this is another unique example of what makes Kent a unique place, and I think this is a great story. I think this is something that the community should be aware of, and I'm not sure how to do that. And but really, thank you. I think it's
Thank you.
a great thing we're doing.
Tracy?
Yeah, I just want to say this is a fantastic program, and thank you for being part of it. And then I had a question for Chief also. You said there were like 500 more runs this year than there were last year. Do you categorize what those are for? Like, are they for heart attacks or drug overdoses and things like that?
Yes, I'm happy to provide that for you.
It was in the report.
Do you know which section, did everything increase or just certain areas increase? Do you
I have not looked at the trends yet on that, but I will, yes.
Just curious.
Yes.
Okay.
Heidi?
Yeah, how long has this program been running now?
8 months.
8 months, okay. So 78 visits in 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah, and, just to reiterate, the idea was to give it a trial run, and this is kind of some of the early reports coming out of it, and we're very excited by it. And like, as Chief said, we were super lucky that, well, first that Joan was able to get the money, and then we were able to get Sarah. I mean, it is a unique situation. Besides the local areas, though, I'm forever bothering them. I think I mentioned this to you guys. I send them the news articles from cities all over. This is an emerging field. And I can tell you, I've yet to see anybody say it's not a very successful program. Communities are slowly these are popping up around the country, and everybody seems very excited about it. I really think it is sort of the leading edge of a new sort of segment of, as Bill said, keeping people safe and touching lives through the fire department. So we're excited about the early results, and I think getting to Roger's point, our hope would be is if it continues to be as successful as it seems to be, we would love to be able to grow the program.
And those 78 calls, the first 2 months was all administrative, so we were.
So mostly in 6 months?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's really quite impressive, though.
Pretty significant.
And, even, helping to reduce the number of calls and, over time, the number that have to go to the emergency room. And, I did want to say, too, that there are some other services in the community that maybe you could link in with. I know that Coleman does a mobile response, crisis response, stabilization services. That might be good for you to know about.
Yeah, I've spoken with them, and I have a contact there for when I need their services.
Good, good.
That's a great point because, I've been a paramedic in Kent for over 33 years, and we're going over all these different services that are available and so forth, and I'm like, I had no clue. The university has services available that we never knew about. And so we're really establishing some collaborative efforts and coming together, and it's really exciting, really, just because of the fact that here now we're kind of getting a list of resources and so forth, being able to go out to the community and say, here's ways of improving your situation. And because again, we don't want to be a nanny. The fire department doesn't want to be a nanny. However, we want to do a hand up for people, and we want to get them started in the right direction, especially those who may not know what's available to them. And so I think those are some great points there. Yes.
Yep.
Gwen?
Just a real quick question. Is there any, or do you ever, I know that your time is limited, is there any collaboration with the police department for like mental health crises, or is this sort of a different kind of category? I guess that wouldn't necessarily be proactive. You'd have to sort of be reactive, but I was just curious.
We've had discussions, we just haven't got to that point yet.
Okay, thank you.
So you haven't gone to the police academy yet. Let's see, you're a nurse.
Right? That was my
firefighter,
husband. That was my husband.
Oh, that was your husband.
Yeah.
John?
Chief, I just want to make a note that you understand. I got to view that fire from the comfort of my hospital bed from Richmond Channel News in Richmond, Virginia, live coverage. And I've never seen any better coverage, and I've never seen any better activity from a fire department and a central maintenance crew than what you guys did. I don't think you could have done anything better unless maybe you would have blown up the building and blew it out in the river, because you did a wonderful job.
You know what? We have some great firefighters. They're brave and courageous, and very proud of them. And I'm also proud of the communities that came over and helped us. And our police department, our service department, it was certainly a team effort, and we all worked together. I know even community development with Bridget and Mr. Roller in getting some of the other demolition type of things done. I mean, it truly is. I mean, this is, with council here, you guys enable us to do our job, and we certainly appreciate you. And again, this is all a team effort by all of us.
Well, that could have been ugly. You did a good job at keeping it to the minimal.
Rob?
We were very blessed that day insofar as we had 9 firefighters in harm's way. Could have been a tragic situation.
Robin?
Yeah, I don't often get a lot of media coverage. I don't see much of that, so this could be from the standpoint of ignorance. But since the paramedicine program has been instituted in the city, and I know that we had voted on it with Joan, and thank you for doing the outreach and everything to bring the program to the city. Have we gotten any information out, like an anniversary, that basically states exactly what you stated tonight regarding the impacts of the paramedicine program and how it has affected the people here in the city? Take a bow time, in other words, so that the people here know and understand that the grants and stuff they use make a difference, as you were stating, how they impact our community, and that so that there could be support for expansion, that people buy in to what we are doing as a community. As Roger had said, that we are a unique community doing cutting-edge things that make a difference with the quality of life here. The incidents just had a situation where the power went out. I had the chief show up to my house, actually, banging on my door and asking what he could do. That kind of outreach from first responders that makes a difference. There are things that we're going to have to put in place. After having gone through that, that was scary. 5 hours without power in a house which is an older home, diminishing your capacity to be able to function, being older, being somewhat incapacitated. It's a big deal having the chief come to your house, knock on your door, and show concern and compassion. We have to be able to get other people to understand those linkages and the availabilities that we have here. They're a community with a face that cares. So my hope is that we do get that information out, that we do take a bow, let people know that there are these functions in the city, that we are compassionate and that we are looking out for people. So I'm hopeful that we can get that if Joan has an opportunity to be able to show exactly how this program has worked for us. And it's a good thing, and thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Questions from the audience? No actions needed, so thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great deal.
Okay. The second item on the agenda is Health Department request to oppose State House Bill 515. Joan?
This one's coming to you, it's a little late, only because it's already been passed through the respective houses in the state of Ohio, and it's on the governor's desk, but I know the Ohio Municipal League and other similar city organizations have been sending around suggestions that you may want to let your governor know how you feel on the issue, and that's pretty much what Joan is asking us to do, so I'll let Joan talk a little more specifically about what House Bill, what is it, 513?
513, yes. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening regarding House Bill 513. And while the majority of this bill is fairly innocuous, there is a portion of 513 that was written with a patellar reflexive manner, so a knee-jerk. In response to Franklin County passing a flavor ban on vaped liquid as well as e-cigarettes and regular cigarettes, several state legislators became enraged, and instead of listening and learning, they wrote an amendment to a bill which not only prohibits the banning of flavor products, but also preempts all local policy that is not first a state law. So, and they also did this without a hearing or without having proponent testimony. This would prohibit implementation of our tobacco retail license. It would also mean that no smoking policies at schools and at parks would be eliminated. At this time, the person who runs the state tobacco grant is unsure if we would be able to continue to do our compliance checks for sales to underage individuals. So we're concerned about that. This bill really directly opposes the edicts of the tobacco settlement. It passed during the lame duck session in December and was sent to Governor DeWine's office on December the 29th. So three things could happen at this point. He could go ahead and sign it, he could veto it, or left unsigned, it will go ahead and pass into law on day 11. The Association of Health Commissioners discussed this bill at their December 16th meeting and all agreed that this would be devastating to the work that we've accomplished and are still trying to achieve. AOHC has also been working together as well as individually to urge the governor to veto this bill. Dustin Hoflinger, who's been here before you at council, he's from the American Heart Association. He wrote to council asking for your support to veto this bill. I, along with many other health commissioners, health departments, hospitals, physician groups, and other interested agencies signed onto this letter, which has already been sent to the governor. I also wrote my own letter, which our medical director, board president, and accreditation coordinator signed, and we sent that on to the governor as well. A coalition of stakeholders is collaborating to discuss future actions as well as to consider any type of work we could implement, and that meeting will be held on Monday the 9th, which is really cutting it close because I believe that the 10th is the last day we have to act on this. So I know that we're all aware of the health risks posed by smoking and vaping. And I would just like to remind that the right decisions regarding smoking, e-cigarette use, and vaping have been made at several points along the years, starting here in Kent at the local level. Home rule has allowed us to hear from experts and implement ordinances that enhance the health of our community and let the state then catch up to us. So please do not let a few angry legislators in Columbus take away your ability to make policy that is right for the citizens of Kent. I've submitted a draft letter to Amy and provided each of you a hard copy of that. I would never presume to speak for you. I just thought at this point in time with the calendar pressing that it might be easier to edit a Word document as opposed to having to start from scratch. So if you are concerned and want to have your voices be heard, please consider sending either this letter or a version of it to the governor, urging him to let home rule stand and allow policy to be guided by need at the local level, especially in regard to tobacco regulation. The time is late, but it's not too late. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joan. Questions? John?
Joan, what, you say that the bill is already passed through the House. What justification reason did they have for credibility so it would pass? I don't know.
Well, it was a bill that was already standing, and I believe it addressed taxes with tobacco sales. That's what the majority of the bill is about. But they did add a last-minute amendment that addressed then local policy making.
Yeah, probably.
So that's where the point of contention is.
Snuck it in on the back
Yes.
page, huh?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, they did that in Michigan with the omnibus education bill with some crazy stuff.
Further questions? Robin?
What's your recommendation tonight for us to act since you're looking at a reduced timeline?
Well, if you would consider that letter, if you feel it needs some edits, I could quickly make those after they were submitted to me, and then add anybody's name who might want to go. The problem is that by the next city council meeting on the 18th, it will already be too late.
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to have, if you want to, I don't mean to pressure you, but the timeline is such that we need to act soon.
Heidi?
Yeah, I'm struggling with putting this into a question, but I do want to state that I read the letter and I think it's really well written and it's very comprehensive and I feel really good about it. So, when it's time to make a motion.
Okay. Jerry?
Is there an address where we can reply to this? To the Ohio State DeWine's office?
I do have an address that I can provide to Amy if you'd prefer that Amy send this off. That might be the route to go. So I do have the address of an associate or assistant to Governor DeWine, and that's where I sent my letter. I sent it electronically because I wanted it to get there rapidly.
Can we even make a motion before the actual council meeting to have it sent as council rather than send it individually?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Make the motion, John.
Further questions? Heidi?
Yeah, I would like to make the motion
Okay.
to send this letter from our council, having each person's name put on here, because I think that packs a little bit more power than Kent City Council does. If, and get it to the governor as soon as humanly possible.
Second.
Second the motion. Yeah.
Okay,
I just have a question.
comments? Yeah, Tracy.
Since Garrett is not here, would his name be included also?
You'd have to
I'll
ask
sign
him.
for Garrett, I usually have to anyhow.
Wake him up.
Okay, any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Ship it off, Amy.
thank you,
very
Joe.
much.
We did a lot of work on some of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God, we spent a lot of time.
Okay,
I think Garrett's coming home tomorrow.
the third thing is, item on the agenda is the police department update on animal control services. Chief Scherer.
Good evening and thank you. So this came up, it's been a little while since this came up. One of the issues that came up was really our compliance officers' ability to catch dogs when they are running at large. So I've done some research on the issue, spoken with our compliance officers, and one of the things I do want to say first and foremost is it is rare that we get a call for a loose dog and we can't account for that dog in one way, shape, or form. About 9 out of 10 times or so, 90% of the time we get a call for a loose dog, they're able to either determine that the dog's made at home by the time they get out there, or they're able to corral the dog, put it in the truck, and take it down to the kennel. So on about 90% of the calls we get, we are able to actually account for the dog. That 10% of the time is I think the issue that we have here. What happens that 10% of the time? And do we have a dog that is potentially aggressive, that won't let the compliance officers close to it, and could also pose a risk to the community as well, being that it's acting in an aggressive manner. So in talking with the compliance officers, I know that initially one of the suggestions that came up was like some sort of a tranquilizer thing, and I think I was pretty opposed to that in the moment, just because of the liability and the danger to the public, to the animals, to everybody involved, with both the liability and the danger that it could present. So one of the things, in doing some research and talking to our compliance officers and finding out what other options are available, one of the things that we've come up with is it's kind of this cool concept that I never knew existed until I talked to the compliance officers.
What was that?
This cool concept, I never knew these existed until I talked to the compliance officers, but for animal control officers, they actually make this thing called a net gun.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what it is, it looks like a flashlight, and they push a button and it shoots this net out at a dog. So it is something that is used by the animal control community across the country. So it is something that we have as an option to look into. I've started preliminarily looking into it, and they're not crazy expensive. I mean, they're not cheap. It's a starter, with all the nets you need and stuff like that would be about $1,000. So it's nothing that we couldn't make work within our current budget that we have to work with as it is. So that's really the primary update I have. I'm sure you guys have some questions. I know one of the things that comes up a lot is feral cats. So one of the things that I do want to point out, we do not have a strong mechanism in our city right now to be able to deal with it. The reality of the situation is that when COVID started, the APL has discontinued the contract they have with the city for taking in feral cats. So even if we trap them and catch them, we have nothing to do with them. We have nowhere to take them. We really don't have anything that we can do with feral cats right now. So that's something that we'll continue to try to work on and see if there is a mechanism that we can find to work with it. But obviously the dog warden won't take cats, and the APL currently won't take cats either. The APL will take an abandoned animal, like a cat or a dog. They'll come out and they'll take an abandoned animal, but they will not take a feral cat.
Questions, John?
Yeah. About a month ago, we had an incident where a rabid raccoon was in a neighbor's yard and called animal control. Ronnie came out and looked at it and started to walk up towards it, and the animal kind of walked in circles and climbed up a tree over Ronnie's head. He called in to say, what could I do? And he was told nothing. This thing was definitely sick.
Mm-hmm.
It stayed up in the tree all night. came out in the morning, it was drooling all over everything. It was non-responsive to commands or anything. And I don't know, for some reason, I just felt something should have been done with that animal.
The difficulty there, and Ron mentioned this one this morning, the difficulty there is the only mechanism, and just speaking very frankly, the only mechanism we have to deal with that is euthanizing the animal essentially with a firearm. And once it's up in a tree, we can't safely do that. A minor miss, when you're shooting up in the air like that, you don't know where that round's going to go, and we have to be accountable to that.
He could have been euthanized before he got up there.
Sure.
He
Sure.
was real passively walking in circles.
But I will say this, and talking to Ron about this morning, if we had a net, we probably could have shot the net up there
I think that's a very
get.
excellent tool that we should have.
Sure. Sure, yeah, and like I said, this is something that's just kind of coming to my attention. That, yeah, I think it's a pretty cool concept.
I'll tell you about the end of that story, but...
Mike?
Is it reloadable? You can reload it?
They make them reloadable, and you can also buy additional heads for the unit that have prepackaged nets, too. An additional head for the unit with a prepackaged net's about $30, but the nets themselves are reusable as well.
I had a buddy that was I guess you'd call it a dog catcher in Canton. He said the best thing he ever used was hot dogs and hot dog buns.
All right.
Every cruiser should have one.
Yeah, fishing pole with a hot dog on it. Yeah.
I think I saw one of those flashlight, or looks like a flashlight with, I think it was the Coyote and the Roadrunner. But I didn't think they actually came into real existence.
That's kind of like Ron and the dogs, right?
Right. Further questions? Thank you, Chief.
Right, thank you.
Okay, that ends.
Finance.
Jeff, do we need a motion so they can buy one of
Oh,
those?
do you need a motion to buy? I
No,
didn't
we
think
don't
so.
need that. We've got it.
If you do, put my name on it.
You're good.
Does it work on people?
Yeah.
They have them on people, yeah.
They have large numbers.
They do have large enough people.
What?
Those are $2,000.
That's the 20 meter by 20 meter.
Okay.
You don't need one that big for my grandkids.
Oh,
I
that's
heard
great.
those, that's like herding feral cats sometimes.
I think Nick's back up here again with his
Yes.
information technology support contract.
So this is our contract. Remember I mentioned we sort of stole Nick away from Quality IP. Well, we still use Quality IP. Or actually, you approved us to add a staff person to Nick this year, and so we're actually going to steal a second person from Quality IP, but which is great news for the city. But we're still going to continue to need additional services, tech services from Quality IP. So they're not going away. This is just a renewal of that contract with a slightly diminished labor number of employees, and so it's going down a little bit because we're adding to our internal staff. So it's a big enough contract that we have to bring it to your attention. But
The other difference is it's 3 years versus the original. Every year prior has been a single year to year. This is a 3-year, and that was the agreement that we kind of came to in order to get the other employee.
that's right. So if you have any questions.
Questions?
Yeah, how are we in regards to, I just heard what city was it now? LA. Just had a problem with their housing board, just got taken over by where they hold it hostage until they give them
Like a certain amount of, and it depends on what the incident was, like what caused it. Was it an encryption? Was it? I guess I would need more details. But are you asking about generally the security of our system?
like ransomware. Yeah. Can somebody hold
So
us
we use multiple different products to handle that. A multi-vendor, multi-product approach is always the best. Falling within suit of all your eggs in one brand's basket is never the option. So we use a couple different systems to do it, between physical firewalls and intrusion prevention and monitoring systems on servers and computers. So it's kind of a mixed bag of it. To say that you are ever fully protected would be a lie, but are we, to my comfort level, as best as we can do? I would like to say yes. But again, there's always, to say that you are completely protected would be foolish. I could never stand before you and say that 100%. So we should always be vigilant, and we should always be aware of what our system, which is also part of why we're moving to Microsoft with multi-factor authentication. That is a component of improving our security stance. So, but we are, to also answer that, I've worked with Budget and Finance and Rhonda and Brian very closely to establish rolling cycles, whereas previously we didn't necessarily update equipment or systems in a timely fashion. We have now gotten a rolling system in place for yearly, whether it be 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years cycles to replace different pieces of equipment and parts of our system to keep them up to date, but to also not be frivolously spending. So there's a fine line there.
Heidi?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the actual contract here, and what's the total? Is it like for a
It should be
year?
at the bottom. It's recurring monthly, and it should be at the bottom. I think it's 9,000. So I don't know the. I can go find it.
Where? This is the recurring total, and that is?
The recurring total 9,990.
That is monthly?
Yes.
Further?
And what's the 6,090? That's the summary of selected payment options.
There's another module that wasn't selected when this was printed that didn't add that lower total. The actual total is the 9,990.
Yeah, that's the actual total
Yes.
per month.
Yes.
Okay.
Further?
And if more services are used, we don't have to pay any more?
So it is what's called measured billing. If you go up to, there's a line that actually says, there's two different sections. There's managed IT, it's page 2 of 8, managed IT workstation and managed IT servers. Those, because it's not a service per se, it's a software package that both they use and we internally use to manage and update and maintain our computers. It is per machine. The servers carry a bit higher cost. There's more to that license. There's more necessary to be done on a server, and then the workstations are lower. But it's based on per. So if we get rid of several computers, our license number goes down by that number, by 22 a computer. If we add 6 more computers, it goes up by 22 times 6 a month. So yes, it is those two pieces, the workstation and servers, are what's called measured billing, and they are adaptive based on our usage numbers, but we're pretty static with those numbers. We usually only change within 5 to 10 a year. So, because a lot of the computer numbers are based on staffing numbers. So as long as those are where they are, then the computers will maintain the same.
Further questions?
Is this within our budget that we've?
Yes.
It's a little bit less this
It's
year
actually,
because,
yes.
so,
It's actually, because we adjusted it we adjusted it down, we worked with them because we're bringing another employee in-house. We adjusted down the services we are getting from them to adjust for the employee we're bringing on board to do it internally. So it is actually, I want to say about a third cheaper than it has been historically.
Thank you.
Further questions? Anyone from the audience? I don't see anybody. Back to council.
Move to approve
Second.
You need the emergency with this?
with the emergency.
Emergency, yeah.
With the emergency. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Thanks.
All right, we need a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, I'll move an executive session to confer with the attorney for the public body subject to pending or imminent court action.
Roll call.
Second.
Oh,
Second.
second by Roger. Roll call.
No, I seconded it.
Oh, did you?
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeon?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Kuhar? Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Ms. Schaefer-Bish? Schaefer-Bish?
Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner? Ms. Wallach?
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrer's
Thinking too
excuse.
hard or something.
You asked me.
Eric Fink, the police chief, Melanie, Jim, Dave, and Hope are supposed to be included.
Good enough.
Give you 5 minutes,
It scares me to walk.
because I need to walk.
My wife's
Yeah,
gotta be road
just
bike.
stiffen it up.
She could hardly.
I'll race you down the hall.
You're going to win.
I want to see you, oh, that looked a little shaky there, Jared.
Long